The marketplace was alive with colors, sounds, and smells unlike any human city. Tall stalls made of metal and exotic fabrics stretched along the crowded streets. Traders from dozens of alien species shouted, offering spices that shimmered like liquid, metals that glowed softly, and fabrics that seemed to float in the air. Humans visiting this frontier planet rarely stayed long, overwhelmed by the scale and strangeness of everything. But today Mara walked calmly, her daughter Lyra by her side. Mara's species was known across the galaxy for strength, skill, and honor. Her skin shimmered faintly under the sun, and her eyes held a quiet intensity that commanded respect without words. Lyra, though only 10, already carried herself with a dignity uncommon for her age. The mother-daughter pair moved with purpose, stopping at stalls to examine objects but keeping their focus on each other. Lyra's curiosity was boundless. She touched every trinket she could reach, her small hands brushing against fabrics that shifted colors and metals that hummed with energy. "Mother, look at this," she said, holding up a tiny sculpture that seemed to float in the air. Her wide eyes reflected awe. Mara smiled faintly, taking the sculpture. "It is beautiful, but do not lose it. Everything here has a price, Lyra." Her tone was gentle, but there was an edge of caution. Mara knew the city's dangers. She had survived many challenges and taught Lyra to do the same. The crowd thickened as traders shouted louder and buyers haggled aggressively. Suddenly, a disturbance broke out near the edge of the market. Mara noticed movement too fast to be normal. Shadows darted between the stalls, and her instincts immediately alerted her to danger. "Lyra," she whispered, gripping her daughter's hand. "Stay close." Lyra turned her wide eyes toward her mother. "What is it?" Before Mara could answer, 3 figures burst into view. Their faces were masked and their bodies were armored with crude, jagged metal. They moved with the intent of violence, their eyes fixed on Lyra. Mara's heart skipped a beat. These were not mere thieves. They were hunters, and her daughter was the target. "Stay behind me," Mara shouted, stepping forward, her muscles tensing. She could handle many attackers at once, but there were too many civilians around to fight freely. Then a loud shout pierced the chaos. "Hey, back off!" A human stepped forward from the crowd. He was tall and lean, his movements precise and confident, though he bore no armor like the attackers. Ethan, a frontier soldier visiting the settlement, assessed the situation instantly. Humans were considered weak by most alien species, yet there was a spark of fearlessness in his stance. One of the attackers lunged toward Lyra, aiming a sharp weapon at her small frame. Without hesitation, Ethan intercepted, throwing himself in front of the girl. The weapon struck his shoulder and he grunted in pain, but he held his ground, raising his arms to shield Lyra. Mara's eyes widened. She had faced warriors more powerful than Ethan, yet she saw something rare. Courage that did not falter even under direct threat. The attackers were momentarily stunned. One of them swung at Ethan, thinking a human could be easily defeated. But Ethan moved with quick, calculated precision. He dodged, countered, and used the attackers' momentum against them. Each time they struck, he absorbed the blows strategically, keeping Lyra completely safe behind him. Mara's hands clenched. She wanted to join the fight, but she was aware of the civilians around her. She watched, silent but attentive, as the human held firm. His face was tense, sweat and blood mixing as he continued to shield the girl. Finally, Mara could wait no longer. She moved, her presence alone forcing the attackers to hesitate. Her eyes glowed faintly with the defensive energy that her species could channel in moments of extreme emotion. The attackers paused, reassessing the risk. Ethan used the moment to push Lyra behind a stall, ensuring she was completely out of harm's way. His breathing was heavy, but his determination did not falter. "Go," he shouted to her. Lyra hesitated, her small hands reaching for the human who had risked his life. Mara grabbed her daughter, pulling her to safety while nodding toward Ethan with a look that mixed gratitude and caution. The attackers realized their advantage was slipping and tried to regroup. Mara finally joined the human fully, striking with speed and precision. Together, human and alien moved as a temporary team, their skills complementing each other. Mara's strength and agility, paired with Ethan's clever maneuvers and fearlessness, overwhelmed the attackers. One by one, they fled, defeated and humiliated. The crowd slowly began to clap, whispers of admiration spreading through the marketplace. Mara turned to Ethan, her sharp eyes taking in the human fully for the first time. He was injured, bleeding from several cuts, yet he straightened, refusing to show weakness. You saved her, Mara said, her voice calm but carrying a weight of seriousness. Do you understand what you did? Ethan shook his head slightly, brushing blood from his arm. I did what I had to do. Anyone would protect a child. Mara studied him, noting the humility in his words. Her species valued bravery, but they also respected honor. Humans were rarely recognized as strong in this part of the galaxy, but this one was different. Lyra, now clinging to her mother's side, looked up at Ethan with wide eyes. Thank you, she whispered softly. Ethan knelt slightly, meeting her gaze. Stay safe, okay? He said, smiling gently despite his injuries. Mara's mind was racing. This human had risked his life, taken blows meant for her daughter, and yet he stood tall without complaint. It was more than courage, it was loyalty, selflessness, and an instinct to protect others that went beyond survival. Her heart, usually guarded, felt a twinge of something unfamiliar. Respect, perhaps even admiration. The commotion settled and the market slowly returned to normal. Mara kept a steady eye on Ethan, who had moved to the side, allowing medical personnel to tend to his injuries. He refused a stretcher, insisting he was fine, though the blood on his shirt said otherwise. You are reckless, Mara said finally, approaching him. Her tone was firm, but there was a trace of curiosity. Ethan looked up, smiling faintly. I guess it's part of the job. You don't think about yourself. You think about others. Mara tilted her head, studying his expression. There was honesty there, an integrity that her people rarely saw outside of their own kind. Humans were unpredictable, often underestimated, yet this human, he embodied the kind of courage her society revered. Tell me your name, she said, her tone shifting slightly. Ethan, he replied, still catching his breath. Mara, she said, introducing herself and her daughter. And this is Lyra. Ethan nodded, glancing at Lyra, then back at Mara. It's nice to meet you, Mara. Lyra, I'm glad she's safe. Mara's mind was already turning. In her culture, saving a life in this way created a bond. A deep unspoken connection formed between those who risked themselves for others. It was a bond that demanded recognition, respect, and sometimes a form of claim. She did not yet understand all the nuances, but she knew one thing clearly. This human had earned her attention in a way no one else had. Lyra, still wide-eyed, whispered to her mother, Will he stay? Mara shook her head slightly, her gaze still on Ethan. I do not know, she said softly, but inside, a thought had begun to form. This human was remarkable. He was brave, clever, and unyielding. He had taken blows for my daughter, something no one else would have done. Ethan, unaware of the depth of her observation, offered a faint smile. I'll stay as long as I'm needed, he said. Mara's eyes narrowed slightly, studying him. Needed. Perhaps that was exactly the right word. In this galaxy, necessity often led to connections that lasted a lifetime. As the sun began to set, painting the marketplace in shades of orange and purple, Mara, Lyra, and Ethan stood together quietly. The chaos of the day had passed, but the sense of something significant lingered. Mara knew that this was only the beginning. Humans were often underestimated. Yet here stood one who could match the courage of her kind. The seed of respect had been planted, and soon it would grow into something far more complex, something that neither species could ignore. And Mara, who had always been fiercely protective, now realized that she was also watching a human who had touched her life in a way she never expected. The night settled over the city, but Mara's mind was awake, turning over possibilities, contemplating bonds, and silently acknowledging that Ethan had earned a place not just in the market or in the settlement, but perhaps in her life and family. The day after the attack, the settlement was quiet but tense. Traders went about their business cautiously. Guards patrolled the streets more often, and rumors of the attack spread quickly. Humans were still rare in this part of the galaxy, and Ethan's bravery had become a topic of hushed conversations. Many settlers admired him, while others questioned how a human could face danger that even seasoned alien warriors feared. Mara moved with purpose through the marketplace, Lyra close at her side. Her mind was occupied with thoughts of the human who had risked his life for her daughter. Ethan had impressed her in ways no one else had. Strength was valued in her society, but courage, loyalty, and honor were even more important. Ethan had all three. She found him outside a small medical tent, sitting on a crate while medics tended his wounds. His shirt was torn, blood had dried along the edges, and his face bore the signs of bruises and cuts. Yet he remained upright, alert and calm as though nothing had happened. "Human," Mara said, her voice firm but carrying a note of curiosity. "How do you stand so tall after taking such blows?" Ethan looked up, offering a faint smile despite the pain. "I have to protect others. That's the point, isn't it? Someone has to step in when danger comes." Mara studied him, noting his calm determination. "Most of your kind would have run. You could have survived by retreating." "I could have," Ethan said simply. "But she's a child. Children shouldn't pay for the mistakes of others. Someone has to make a choice, and I chose to help." Lyra, standing beside her mother, glanced at Ethan with admiration. "He didn't even complain," she whispered softly. Mara nodded, her eyes narrowing in thought. In her culture, courage alone was not enough. Loyalty, honor, and selflessness were the highest virtues. Ethan had displayed all three in a single act. Her respect for him was growing faster than she expected. The medics finished tending to his wounds. Ethan stood slowly, testing his movements. "I'll be fine," he said. "Nothing too serious." Mara gestured for him to sit again. "Your wounds are serious enough for observation. You should rest." Ethan shook his head, though he accepted her gesture. "I can't stay idle while the settlement is at risk. I'll rest later." Mara's lips pressed together. This human was stubborn, but stubbornness was often a trait of the brave, and she could appreciate that. Over the next few days, Mara observed Ethan closely. He moved through the settlement, assisting wherever he could. He helped repair a broken water supply system, using tools alien to most of the settlers, demonstrating ingenuity and skill. When a small fire broke out in a food stall, Ethan ran into the smoke to rescue trapped civilians. Even minor conflicts, like disputes between traders, were handled with calm logic and fairness. Mara watched silently from a distance, noting the subtle ways he earned respect. Humans were rarely seen as capable by her people, but Ethan challenged every expectation. His courage was not just in combat, it was in his daily actions, in his willingness to help anyone, and in his calm and clever mind. Lyra began to follow him, curious and inspired. "He's amazing," she said one afternoon while watching him repair a floating cart that had malfunctioned. "He's like a hero," Mara's expression softened. "Yes, he is remarkable. But remember, Lyra, heroes are rare. Not everyone is like him." Lyra nodded, still watching Ethan work with precision and care. "I wish he could stay forever," she whispered. Mara felt a pang of understanding. Humans and aliens rarely formed close bonds. Yet here was one who had not only risked his life, but had also earned the admiration of her daughter. She wondered if this was the beginning of something that could change the way her people viewed humans entirely. Then came the council meeting. Mara, as a respected warrior and mother, attended to discuss the attack and the growing threat of rogue gangs in the region. Ethan was invited as a guest, though some council members were skeptical of his presence. Humans were outsiders, and their methods were unpredictable. The council room was vast, with high ceilings and glowing symbols along the walls. Mara introduced Ethan to the council, explaining his actions during the attack. "This human risked his life for my daughter," she said. "He demonstrated courage, loyalty, and honor that many of our warriors do not show." There were murmurs. Some council members looked impressed, while others frowned. One elder, a veteran warrior named Karth, spoke first. "A human? You expect us to respect him as a warrior?" Mara's gaze was firm. "Respect is earned, Karth. He earned it." Ethan stood calmly, meeting their scrutiny without anger. "I did what anyone should do. I only acted to protect a child and keep the settlement safe." Another council member, a younger alien named Solara, leaned forward. "Then he has proven himself in action, not words." "That is all that matters," Mara nodded. "Exactly. Actions define a warrior, not species or origin." By the end of the meeting, the council agreed that Ethan's actions deserved recognition. They formally acknowledged him as an ally of the settlement, giving him temporary authority to assist in defense strategies and security. For Mara, this was validation. Her human had proven that courage and loyalty transcended species. That evening, Mara walked through the settlement with Ethan and Lyra. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the streets. Vendors were closing their stalls and children played near the water fountains. Mara finally spoke openly. "You have impressed me, Ethan," she said. "Your courage saved my daughter. Your actions inspire more than admiration, they inspire hope. Not just for me, but for many here. Ethan shrugged slightly. I didn't do it for praise. I did it because it was right. Mara smiled faintly. That is why your courage is rare. Many fight for honor, for reward, for recognition. You fight because it matters to protect others. That is something my people respect deeply. Lyra reached up and grabbed Ethan's hand. Will you stay and teach me things? She asked innocently. Ethan looked down at her, smiling. I can teach you many things, Lyra. But the most important is this. Courage is not about being the strongest. It's about standing up when it matters most. Mara watched them, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. This human, though unlike anyone she had known, was becoming part of her world. And not just in the eyes of her daughter. Mara herself felt a growing bond, an awareness that Ethan's presence could change the way her family, and perhaps her people, understood humanity. Days turned into a week. Ethan continued to prove himself, assisting in patrols, repairs, and training. Mara observed his interactions with others. He was patient, fair, and inventive. Where her people relied on sheer strength, Ethan relied on ingenuity and careful planning. Where others might see humans as fragile, Mara saw resilience and intelligence. One afternoon, Mara invited Ethan to spar with her in the training grounds. It was a way to test his abilities further and understand the human who had impressed her so deeply. Ethan agreed, though he knew he was no match for Mara's strength. As they sparred, Mara was careful, observing his tactics and reactions. Ethan moved with agility, using speed and quick thinking to counter her strikes. He didn't win, but he demonstrated adaptability, awareness, and courage. Mara nodded, a rare smile forming. You are unlike any human I have ever known. Your mind, your instincts, they complement your courage. I respect that greatly. Ethan caught his breath, smiling back. And I respect your skill and honor. I've never met anyone like you either. Lyra watched from the side, cheering quietly. You two are amazing, she said. Mara's gaze softened, but her mind was already considering the implications. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy, yet this one had earned respect, admiration, and perhaps even a place in her life. That night, as the settlement settled under the twin moons, Mara sat quietly with Lyra in their home. Your human protector is remarkable, she said softly. He has courage, loyalty, and wisdom beyond what many of my kind possess. And he cares for you, Lyra. That is important. Lyra nodded, resting her head against her mother. I like him. He makes me feel safe. Mara placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. He does, and we must watch him closely. Humans are unpredictable, but he is different. I feel it. Somewhere in the settlement, Ethan looked up at the same moons. He thought about the day he had stepped in to protect a child. He had done it without expectation of reward, yet he felt a quiet satisfaction. Something about this settlement, this mother and daughter, had reached him. He did not yet understand the bond forming, but he knew one thing. He would stand by them no matter what challenges came next. And Mara, quietly watching, knew that this was only the beginning. The human had earned respect. The human had earned admiration. And slowly, perhaps, the human was beginning to earn a place in her family, though neither she nor Ethan fully understood how significant that would become. The settlement had grown quieter in the days following Ethan's recognition. Civilians walked the streets with a sense of safety. Children played freely near the fountains, and traders returned to their stalls without the constant fear that had gripped them earlier. Mara observed from a distance, keeping a careful watch over Lyra, but her mind was never far from Ethan. He had become more than a protector. He had become a symbol of courage for her family and the entire settlement. But peace, as Mara knew all too well, was often only temporary. It started with whispers. Traders spoke nervously of strange shadows at the edges of the settlement, of distant roars and the glint of weapons in the dark. Mara immediately sensed the threat. Her instincts, honed over decades, told her that this was no ordinary gang. These were professionals, disciplined and ruthless. Lyra, Mara said one morning, her voice firm. Stay close to me today. Do not wander. Lyra looked up, curiosity shining in her eyes. Mother, is it the same people? Mara shook her head. Worse, they are organized, prepared. They will not attack like before. They will try to take the settlement by force. Ethan, who had been repairing a broken hovercart nearby, overheard her. He stood, his expression serious. Then we need a plan. If they come, we can't just wait for them to strike. Mara's gaze met his. Exactly. That is why I wanted you here. Your mind, your strategies. Humans think differently than we do. That difference may save us all. Together they moved to the council hall where Mara briefed the leaders on the intelligence she had gathered. She explained the potential size of the attacking group, their weapons and possible strategies. The council members listened, some skeptical, others worried. Ethan stepped forward. If we set traps near the main entrances and use the settlement's terrain to our advantage, we can slow them down. Then we hit them in small groups instead of one large fight. Strength alone won't work. We need speed, surprise, and precision. The council was silent for a moment. Then Karth, the veteran warrior who had doubted Ethan before, spoke. A human's plan?
Are you sure it will work?
Ethan met his gaze calmly. I've studied their patterns. I know how they think. If we prepare properly, we can defend the settlement without unnecessary losses. Mara nodded approvingly. He is right. We must combine our strength with his strategies. We cannot underestimate them. Over the next few days, preparations began. Mara led the warriors, training them and setting defensive positions. Ethan organized civilians into safe zones and designed mechanisms to slow down intruders. He used devices unfamiliar to most of the settlers, tools and sensors from human frontier colonies that allowed them to detect movement, monitor paths, and even set traps without endangering anyone. Lyra followed Ethan around, fascinated by his methods. How do you know all this? She asked one day. Ethan smiled faintly. Experience, curiosity, and paying attention. Every problem has a solution if you look for it carefully. Mara watched them, a quiet smile on her face. She was impressed not only by his bravery but by his mind. Where her people relied on sheer power, Ethan relied on thought, observation, and cleverness. It was a different kind of strength, one that complemented her own. As night fell, the settlement settled into an uneasy calm. Guards patrolled the perimeter, traps were set, and Ethan inspected every detail. Mara stood beside him, her gaze scanning the horizon. You are confident, she said. Ethan shrugged slightly. I don't expect it to be easy, but if we're prepared, we can handle it. Mara nodded. She had come to trust his judgment. More than that, she had begun to feel something she could not name, an admiration that went beyond respect. He had saved her daughter, protected her settlement, and now stood shoulder to shoulder with her as they faced an even greater threat. The first signs of trouble came just before dawn. Shadows moved along the outskirts of the settlement, too fast and too coordinated to be ordinary travelers. Mara's warriors took positions, and Ethan monitored the sensors he had set up. They're here, he whispered, watching the screens. About 50 of them, moving carefully, using the terrain to avoid detection. Mara nodded. Warriors, positions. Protect the civilians. The rogue gang struck quickly, attempting to breach the outer perimeter. Mara met them head-on, her strikes swift and precise. Ethan stayed behind the lines, directing the flow of the battle, signaling to his human and alien allies, and using the settlement's defenses to maximum effect. Lyra watched from a safe distance, her small hands gripping Mara's. She felt a mixture of fear and awe as she saw Ethan in action. Though he did not strike with Mara's raw power, his mind and movements shaped the battle. Every decision he made gave her people an advantage. Every choice he took saved lives. Mara's respect deepened as she observed him. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy, yet this one moved with a confidence and clarity she had rarely seen in her own kind. He was not just brave, he was smart, adaptable, and utterly fearless. Hours passed and the battle intensified. Mara fought alongside her warriors, striking down attackers who underestimated her strength. Ethan coordinated reinforcements, set traps, and guided civilians to safety. Despite their combined efforts, the rogue gang was relentless and the settlement's warriors were beginning to tire. Then, in the middle of the chaos, Mara was surrounded by a group of attackers. She fought fiercely, but they were too many. Suddenly, a massive blow struck her side, sending her stumbling. The attackers pressed closer, their weapons raised for the final strike. From the edge of the battle, Ethan appeared. He moved swiftly, striking with precision, deflecting attacks, and creating openings for Mara to recover. When one attacker lunged at Mara, Ethan intercepted, taking the blow himself. He grunted but held his ground, refusing to retreat. Mara's eyes widened. He was risking himself again, just as he had for Lyra. She felt a surge of admiration and something more, something she had not expected. Humans were fragile compared to her species, yet Ethan faced danger without hesitation. Together they fought side by side. Mara's strength and skill, combined with Ethan's tactics and quick thinking, turned the tide. The rogue gang began to retreat, confused and disoriented. Within an hour, the settlement was safe once more. When the battle ended, Mara stood beside Ethan, her chest heaving from exertion. He was scratched and bruised, blood staining his shirt, but he smiled faintly. "We did it," he said, his voice calm despite everything. Mara placed a hand on his shoulder, her gaze intense. "You are extraordinary. Not because of strength alone, but because of your courage, your mind, and your loyalty. You have done more than any warrior I know." Ethan shook his head. "I only did what was necessary. I couldn't watch anyone get hurt if I could help." Lyra ran to them, hugging Ethan's legs. "Thank you. You saved everyone." Ethan knelt to meet her gaze. "I'm glad you're safe, Lyra. That's all that matters." Mara watched the two of them, her mind turning over the events. Ethan had not only saved her daughter again, but had also protected the settlement and inspired her people. His presence had changed everything. She realized then that respect was not enough. He had earned a place in her life, perhaps even in her family. And while she did not fully understand what that meant for her or her people, she knew one thing. Humans could achieve greatness in ways her species often underestimated. That night, Mara sat with Lyra in their home, thinking quietly. "Your human protector is more than brave," she said. "He is clever, loyal, and unafraid. He is remarkable." Lyra nodded. "I want him to stay. He makes me feel safe." Mara smiled faintly, feeling a warmth she could not ignore. "He may stay, and I will ensure that his place among us is respected. Humans may be underestimated, but this one, he is different." Outside, Ethan looked up at the twin moons, reflecting on the day. He had faced danger, guided the settlement, and protected lives. Yet the most unexpected reward was the bond he felt forming with Mara and Lyra. He did not yet know the future, but he understood one thing clearly. He would stand with them, no matter what came next, and Mara, silently observing him, knew that this was only the beginning. The human had proven his worth in combat, strategy, and heart. Soon his place would grow even more significant, not just as a protector, but as someone intertwined with her family, her daughter, and her life. The night air was calm, but Mara's mind was alive with thoughts of the human who had saved them all. Courage, she realized, came in many forms. Strength alone was not enough. And humans, though underestimated, had a capacity to inspire that could change worlds. Ethan had shown her that. And Mara would not forget it. The settlement had recovered from the attack, but Mara could not shake the thoughts of Ethan from her mind. His courage, intelligence, and selflessness had impressed her more than she expected. She had seen many warriors, humans and aliens alike, but none had displayed the combination of bravery and heart that this human had shown. He had taken blows meant for her daughter, faced overwhelming danger without hesitation, and helped protect an entire community. Mara knew that in her culture such acts carried meaning beyond admiration. When someone sacrificed themselves for a family, it created a bond that was recognized as sacred and unbreakable. And Ethan had done exactly that. One morning, Mara approached him as he was inspecting the settlement's outer sensors. "Ethan," she said quietly, "I wish to speak with you about your actions." Ethan turned, wiping dirt and blood from his hands. "About the fight?" he asked. Mara nodded. "Not only the fight. What you did for Lyra, what you did for the settlement. It is rare, even among my people, to see such courage and loyalty. You have earned more than my gratitude. You have earned respect, and something else." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Something else?" "In my culture," Mara explained, "those who risk themselves for a family may be claimed. It is a recognition of loyalty and sacrifice. It is not about ownership, but about connection. You have taken blows for my daughter. You have faced danger for us. That act binds you to us in a way few can understand." Ethan's mouth opened slightly, then closed. He looked at Mara, trying to understand. "You mean, you claim me?" Mara nodded. "Yes, I do. And it is an honor, Ethan. Not everyone earns such a bond. You have proven yourself." Ethan took a moment to process her words. His mind raced, thinking about cultural differences, ethics, and his own place in the settlement. He had always acted out of instinct and a sense of duty, never expecting reward, recognition, or acclaim. Yet now he saw the weight behind Mara's words. Lyra, standing nearby, looked up at him with wide eyes. "Does this mean you're going to stay with us?" she asked innocently. Ethan knelt to meet her gaze. I think so," he said carefully. "If that is what you and your mother wish, I will stand with you. I will protect you both." Mara's expression softened. She had expected hesitation, but his willingness to consider the bond impressed her even more. "Then it is agreed," she said. "You are recognized as part of our family, as someone who belongs to us. You are not merely a protector. You are acknowledged in a way that is rare even among our own kind." Ethan nodded slowly. He felt a strange mixture of pride, respect, and responsibility. This was more than a promise to protect a settlement or a family. It was a bond that demanded loyalty, courage, and honor, and he accepted it quietly, knowing that actions would speak louder than words. Over the next few days, Mara introduced Ethan to her people formally. They gathered in the central square, an area reserved for important announcements and ceremonies. Mara spoke first, explaining Ethan's bravery, intelligence, and loyalty. "This human," she said, her voice carrying across the crowd, "risked his life for my daughter and our people. He faced danger we could not have expected him to endure, and he did so with courage, honor, and skill. In our culture, such acts cannot go unrecognized. Ethan is now bound to our family, recognized as someone we honor and respect." The crowd was silent for a moment, processing the unusual declaration. Some elders nodded slowly, acknowledging the wisdom in Mara's decision. Others whispered, curious or skeptical about the significance of claiming a human in this way. Ethan stepped forward, bowing slightly in respect. "I am honored," he said quietly. "I did what I felt was right. I did not expect this recognition, but I accept it, and I will continue to serve and protect your family and settlement." Mara smiled faintly. "You have more than accepted. You have shown that humans are capable of great courage and loyalty. You are an example to all of us." Lyra ran forward and hugged Ethan's legs tightly. "You're mine too," she whispered. Ethan chuckled softly, lifting her gently. "And I'm glad to be yours," he said. Mara and Ethan began spending more time together, discussing defense strategies, daily life in the settlement, and even sharing stories of their past. Mara learned about Ethan's upbringing on human frontier colonies, the challenges he had faced, and the way he had been trained to survive in harsh and unpredictable environments. Ethan, in turn, learned about Mara's people, warriors bound by honor, skilled in combat and devoted to family. He discovered the nuances of their culture, the importance of loyalty, and the depth of connection that Mara's society placed on actions like his. One afternoon, Mara invited Ethan to the training grounds. "You have proven yourself in battle," she said, "but there is more to understand. My people fight with strength, yes, but also with tradition, with connection, with strategy that comes from years of cultural knowledge. You must see this if you are truly to be part of our family." Ethan agreed. They sparred together, not as opponents but as partners, learning from each other. Mara demonstrated techniques that relied on power and agility, while Ethan showed clever ways to turn strategy, observation, and quick thinking into an advantage. Lyra watched from the sidelines, clapping and cheering. "You're both amazing," she said. Mara glanced at Ethan during a pause in the sparring. "I have not only earned respect for you as a warrior," she said quietly, "but also admiration. You think differently, act differently, yet you succeed where many fail. That is rare." Ethan smiled faintly. "I only do what I must." "But I appreciate your words, Mara. I never expected any of this." "Nor did I," she replied softly. "Yet it is right, and it feels natural." The bond between them began to grow beyond respect. Mara found herself thinking of Ethan more often, considering his safety, his thoughts, and his presence in ways she had not considered for others. He was human, yes, but his courage and heart made him exceptional in her eyes. One evening, Mara and Ethan walked through the settlement together. The sky was painted with shades of violet and orange as the sun set. Civilians moved about peacefully, unaware of the deeper significance of the bond forming between the human and the alien mother. "You are different from anyone I have ever met," Mara said quietly. "Humans are often underestimated, but you prove that bravery, loyalty, and honor are not limited to strength alone. You have earned your place with my family, and I Feel something I cannot fully name. Ethan listened carefully. I care for your daughter, Mara. I care for you. I don't fully understand your customs yet, but I know I want to protect you both, no matter what comes. Mara nodded, a faint smile forming. That is all I could ask for. But understand this, Ethan. Being part of my family means more than protection. It means loyalty, honor, and understanding our ways. You have already proven you can do these things. Now you must continue to do so. I understand, Ethan replied, and I will do whatever it takes. Lyra ran ahead of them, laughing and chasing a small floating orb that moved through the air like a playful pet. Mara glanced at Ethan, seeing how gently he interacted with her daughter, how naturally he had become part of their small family. I did not expect a human to earn my admiration, Mara admitted softly. Yet here we are. You have shown qualities that few of my people possess, and now I claim you not only as a protector but as part of our family. That is my right according to our culture. Ethan met her gaze calmly. Then I accept, he said quietly. I will stand with you and Lyra. I will honor the bond we have. Mara felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The human she had observed, tested, and admired was now not only recognized as part of her family, but also willingly committed to the responsibilities that came with it. She knew that their connection would grow stronger over time, and that it would be tested in ways they could not yet imagine. That night, Mara sat with Lyra in their home, reflecting on the events of the past week. Your protector is no longer just a friend, she said softly. He has become part of our family, and I respect him in ways I did not anticipate. Lyra nodded, curling against her mother. I like him, Mother. He makes me feel safe and happy. Mara smiled faintly, feeling a warmth she could not ignore. He does, and we will watch him closely, guide him, and learn from him. Humans are underestimated, but this one, he is exceptional. And soon the settlement will see that too. Outside, Ethan looked up at the twin moons, thinking quietly. He had accepted Mara's claim, understood her culture, and committed to protecting her and Lyra. He felt a sense of responsibility and pride, knowing that his actions had forged a bond recognized in both human and alien terms. Mara, observing him from the window, knew that this was only the beginning. Ethan's place in their family was now formalized, his loyalty acknowledged and his courage admired. The human had proven himself in ways no one could have expected, and Mara, quietly, realized that she no longer viewed him as merely a human. He was part of her family, part of her life, and someone she could not imagine losing. The morning sun cast a warm glow over the settlement, reflecting off the metallic structures and highlighting the busy activity of its residents. Traders reopened their stalls. Children ran through the streets laughing, and the calm seemed almost surreal after the recent attacks. Mara watched from her home, her mind occupied with thoughts of Ethan. He had become more than a protector. He was now an inseparable part of her life and Lyra's, and his presence had changed everything. Ethan, meanwhile, moved through the settlement with purpose. He was helping to reinforce the outer walls, checking sensors and ensuring that the defensive systems were fully operational. Despite the small wounds and bruises still faintly visible on his arms and face, he worked tirelessly. Mara admired his endurance and commitment. Humans were often underestimated, yet Ethan displayed qualities that few aliens could match: bravery, intelligence, and a loyalty that was unwavering. Lyra ran up to him, holding a small floating orb in her hands. Ethan, look! I made it move faster, she exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. Ethan bent down, smiling warmly. Well done, Lyra. You're getting better every day. Soon you'll be able to make it do anything you want. Mara observed them silently, her heart softening. The bond between Ethan and Lyra had grown quickly, built on trust, admiration, and shared experiences of danger and protection. Watching them, she realized how natural his presence had become. He was no longer an outsider or a stranger. He was part of their family. That afternoon, Mara called for a meeting with the council. She wanted to formally announce Ethan's role and ensure that the entire settlement understood the bond he had earned. As the council members assembled, some whispered in curiosity, others watched with quiet respect. This human, Mara began, her voice carrying authority, has earned a place in our family. He risked his life for my daughter. He protected this settlement with courage, intelligence, and loyalty. In our culture, such actions bind an individual to a family in a way that cannot be ignored. Ethan is now recognized as part of my family and will act alongside us in protecting and guiding this community. Karth, the veteran warrior who had doubted Ethan before, stepped forward. I have watched him fight, plan, and lead, he admitted. He is not only capable, he is exceptional. Your bond with him is clear, Mara, and I respect it. Other council members nodded, murmurs of agreement spreading through the room. Ethan stepped forward, bowing slightly in respect. I am honored to be recognized in this way, he said. I accept the responsibility that comes with this bond, and I will continue to serve and protect Mara, Lyra, and the settlement to the best of my ability. Mara smiled faintly. She could see that the council now understood what she already knew. Humans were often underestimated, but Ethan had proven that courage, loyalty, and intelligence transcended species. Over the following days, life in the settlement returned to a steady rhythm. Ethan worked tirelessly, overseeing repairs, assisting with training, and spending time with Lyra. Mara observed him constantly, noticing the subtle ways he earned respect by solving problems efficiently, helping the injured, and calmly making decisions under pressure. One afternoon, Mara and Ethan walked together through the settlement, discussing improvements to the defensive systems. Mara glanced at him, considering how far they had come. You have changed the way I see humans, she said quietly. Not all are like you, but you are exceptional. Ethan smiled faintly. Thank you, Mara. That means a lot coming from you. I've learned so much from you as well, about your people, your culture, and your values. I respect them greatly, Mara nodded. Respect is earned, and you have earned it fully. But more than respect, you have earned a place in our lives. You are not just a protector. You are part of our family. Ethan looked at her thoughtfully. I understand. And I accept that place. I will do everything I can to honor it. The evening brought a rare calm. The settlement glowed under the light of the twin moons, casting long shadows across the streets and giving the metallic surfaces a soft shimmer. Mara stood with Lyra near the fountain, watching Ethan repair a small broken hovercraft. He moved with precision and care, his mind clearly focused. Lyra ran up to him again. Ethan, will you show me how to fix this next? Ethan looked down and smiled. Of course, Lyra. You'll learn quickly. I'll guide you every step of the way. Mara observed them, feeling a warmth in her chest she could not ignore. She realized that Ethan had become more than a human warrior to her. He was someone she trusted completely, someone who had proven himself in every possible way. And she knew that her recognition of him as part of her family was more than symbolic. It was real, meaningful, and permanent. A few days later, Mara gathered her people in the central square for a celebration. The recent attacks had been repelled, the settlement was secure, and it was time to honor those who had protected it. Mara called Ethan to the front, standing beside him with Lyra holding her hand. You have seen what courage, loyalty, and honor can achieve, Mara addressed the crowd. Ethan, a human, has risked his life for my daughter, defended this settlement, and earned a place in our family. Today we celebrate his bravery, his wisdom, and his bond with us. The crowd erupted in applause, some cheering, others bowing in respect. Ethan stepped forward humbly, acknowledging their admiration without arrogance. I only did what anyone should do, he said quietly. I am honored to be recognized and to stand with Mara, Lyra, and all of you. Mara smiled, feeling a sense of pride and relief. Her decision had been correct. Ethan had proven himself beyond doubt, not only in combat but in spirit. Lyra ran to him, hugging him tightly. I'm glad you're ours, she said, laughing. Ethan hugged her back, careful and gentle. I'm glad too, Lyra. Always. After the celebration, Mara walked with Ethan through the quiet streets. The twin moons reflected off the metallic surfaces, creating a calm and peaceful atmosphere. Mara turned to him, her expression softening. You have earned more than respect, she said quietly. You have earned trust, loyalty, and a place in my family. I do not know what the future holds, but I know this. You are part of our lives now, permanently. Ethan nodded. I understand, and I will honor that place, Mara. I will protect you and Lyra, and I will continue to serve this settlement as best I can. Mara reached out, placing a hand on his arm. Then we are agreed. You are ours and we are yours. Your courage, your heart, and your loyalty have made you part of our family forever. Ethan looked at her, his expression serious yet calm. I accept. I will not fail you. Lyra ran ahead, holding the small floating orb high. Come on, let's play, she shouted. Ethan lifted her gently, smiling, and followed her laughter. Mara watched them, feeling a sense of contentment she had not felt before. The human she had claimed, who had risked his life for her daughter, was now firmly part of her family. He was more than a protector. He was a partner in life, someone she could trust completely. And as the twin moons shone down on the settlement, Mara knew that this was only the beginning of a life shared together. A family strengthened by courage, loyalty, and love. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, but Ethan had proven that one human could change the fate of a family, a settlement, and perhaps even the future itself. For Mara, Lyra, and Ethan, life would never be the same again. The bond had been forged in courage and tested in fire, and it was now unbreakable. They were a family, united not by blood but by bravery, loyalty, and a shared commitment to each other. The settlement, safe and prosperous once more, looked to the future with hope, inspired by the human who had risked everything to protect them. And Mara, silently proud, knew that the human she had claimed as part of her family was not only exceptional, he was extraordinary. Together, they would face whatever challenges came next, bound by a bond stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, and stronger than any threat the galaxy could throw at them.